Hello everyone! As you know, I've just been to Butlins again, Skegness, been there, got the t-shirt. As you know, I love to have a laugh and a joke. And, but I am actually, can be very serious. I'm really interested actually in Victorian England and wartime England, especially World War Two. And it got me thinking actually about the war. So I just actually came back the other day. As you know, World War Two actually broke out the 3rd of September 1939. And at that time, Butlins hasn't started for that long. As you know, it's been going for 75 years. So obviously all the campers got sent home, because obviously the World War Two was breaking out. They couldn't stay there on holiday. It was actually taken over by the Navy, and it was actually called Royal Arthur, HMS Royal Arthur. Being by the coast, obviously, for the ships and everything, this is where they had all the camps. So obviously all the children were sort of evacuated into the countryside. I actually live in the country, and the town I live in was used as a place for evacuation. And I know, very strange thing to talk about, but Butlins played a big part in the war effort, and I don't think people think about it much these days. Obviously Butlins now is it's a big multi-million-pound investment, very substantial sort of redevelopments. Plays a big part in the entertainment industry. Redcoats are notable in their own rights now. It's just a big massive phenomenon, Butlins is, and it started off, as I said, by a person, as you know, called Sir William Butlin, and he wanted to actually bring a sort of Disneyland atmosphere to England. He was living in Toronto, Canada, and he used to go to summer camps. As you know, you've probably heard of Camp America. Those are big things in Canada and America, and we don't have nothing like that over here, and we still don't. I know why. I would have loved to have gone to Camp America. I would have loved it so much. Anyway, I've got a cold. That's what happens when you go to Skegness, and I'm going back again this weekend because I love it so much. Anyway, let's carry on with the story. So he wanted to bring this camp idea over here, and he literally only had £5 in his pocket, which to today's value would be worth about £1.89. And this is going back to 1930s. As I said, it was wartime, more or less. England was in distress, and it was, the war was the biggest thing to hit Britain, destroyed the whole sort of industries, and everybody had to go to war. Your dad had to go to war, you had to go into the army, your mum had to go to work. As I said, all the children were scattered around everywhere. They were sort of went to place people they'd never met before. They didn't even vet the people out, they were just sent there in those days. And this is how it was. So obviously, Butlins, nowadays we know it just as Butlins Holiday Camp Resort. It sort of rebranded as a holiday resort in the 1960s, but it was always known as a holiday camp, and then it was also known as a sort of fun coast world as well. Okay then, so as I said, he started off in a little travelling fair. He had this £5 and he was very good at it, and he went to a place called Barry Island in Wales, and he started another travelling fair, and it grew and it grew. He had his own little travelling fairs, and then he actually leased a piece of land in a place called Inglemouse, which is near Skegness in Lincolnshire, which we know as Butlins. And he sort of started building, and he actually had what it was, he used to go to these places in Wales, etc., and he would notice how the landladies would push families out between meals, so they had nowhere to go. And you may remember, if you're like me, as a kid we used to go to places like Rill, and the beaches were packed, they were completely rammed. You were lucky to get a little piece of beach to yourself this much. there was windbreakers, all colourful windbreakers all over the beach, and there was an atmosphere. It was quite good really. And so he envisioned, shall we say, he had a vision of how he wanted it to be, but it didn't happen. You could go to Butlins for about, well, in our money, £1.75, for a week. which I think is about 75 shillings in those days, you know. But people wasn't engaging with each other. You notice how they were looking bored. You know, the British have the known as having the stiff upper lip. They don't. There's not a community thing going on over here like there is abroad, especially in America. You know, and he wanted that. This is what he wanted. So he asked actually somebody who just worked there if he could entertain the guests. So one night he was like a bit of a comedian, like me, he liked to have a laugh and a joke. His name was Norman Bradford, and he was actually the first redcoat. And, you know, Butlins thought, oh, you know, this is getting a little bit better. So he enlisted a little brigade of redcoats. Yeah, and, you know, this is how the heart of the entertainment sort of Butlins was born. You know, so this is how it grew, and he had a little miniature railway, and he was actually the first person in Britain to have an actual licence to import Dodgem cars. You know, so there was the Dodgem cars, as I said, there was a tram thing that used to go around, and he actually had an airfield where you could fly planes, and as I said, it was actually closed between 1939 and 1946. It actually reopened, I think it was the, when was it? The 11th of May, 1946. It reopened, and it had actually been bombed 52 times, and it took Butlins about 6 weeks to rebuild, and they'd had to, obviously for the war, they had to pull up all the rose beds to build air raid shelters, you know, and they had to paint all the buildings because it was all like it is now, it's all bright colours. And the actual inside stayed the same, and actually when it reopened they still actually had the blankets with the insignia of Royal Arthur, which I thought that was quite, you know, I just love all things like that. Not far from where I live there's a little museum from the war, and it has an air raid shelter, and you can see all the bunk beds and all that. It just interests me. I just love the war. I know, obviously I wasn't around in those days. Yes, so this is, you know, how it all was, just talking about the war. I know. Yes, so I forgot where I was now. Yes, Royal Arthur, and it reopened. You know, and he just kept building and building this little empire. You know, as I said, a lot of redevelopments have happened, and then we've now got the Skyline Pavilion, which was refurbed not that long ago, I think 1998. In actual 1987 it had a 14 million refurb, and that was called Funcoast World. You probably know that. They've just refurbed a 15 million outdoor swimming pool at Skegness. Actually, Butlins has played a big part on the pop culture industry. I don't know if you know, but Ringo Starr used to work at Butlins. He was playing in a band called the Hurricanes. I don't know if it's true, but Paul McCartney and John Lennon apparently went to see him at Skegness, and, you know, they spotted him and asked him if he would like to be in the Beatles. I mean, I don't know if that's true, because I heard he got a phone call to say he, you know, was a member of the Beatles, so I don't actually know if that's true, which way round. And also Paul McCartney himself, they used to have a lot of talent shows, and they had sort of Miss Personality competitions, all that kind of thing going on. They don't do them now, really. And yeah, so Paul McCartney was in a talent show, and his actual first song he actually played in this talent show was called Long Tall Sally. You might have known that. Also Lauren and Hardy played at Skegness, Butlins. Who else? Susie Quattro, quite a few big names. Dave Allen was a redcoat. There's another magician, I can't remember his name, a young lad. He started off as a redcoat, he still visits it now. You know, redcoats have actually gone on to become big stars because they have big personalities. You know, to become a redcoat you can't be a little wallflower. You know, as I said, redcoats are stars in their own rights. They also had something called the Gaiety Theatre, where there was, you know, they had a big dance hall, there's a lot of dancing going on. Everybody sort of started having fun, getting together. You know, I think as well a lot of people become a bit more complacent when they're at places like Butlins. Even in the old days you used to just leave your baby in your chalet, and the nurses would look after them, and they would come round the clubs with a big stick with a number on. If, you know, if they heard your baby crying, you'd have to look out for your number of your room, and you'd have to run off, go and sort your baby out, and then go back to the show. Obviously, you know, could you imagine it now? You know, and that's how it was in those days. And, you know, as I said, I'm very interested in history. You know, I just loved the war. And it actually, Butlins actually first opened in 1936, as I mentioned, at Easter. And it's been going for 75 years, and it's had, as I said, it's played all this part in the war effort, and it's still being built on now and getting bigger and bigger, and it's actually owned by a company called Bourne, who also own Haven and also Warner Leisure Hotels, and they have owned it since the 1960s. Which is a big leisure business. There's lots of jobs going if you go onto the website. And so I just wanted to mention that because, as I said, this time in 1939, war had literally just broken out. I don't think people think about it, apart from Poppy Day and all that. We never think about the war heroes, and not as much as we should. Like this time, sort of connecting it with Butlins. And I used to go to a place actually in real Wales. It was actually used, it was a campsite, and it was actually used as a concentration camp in the war. It's a very, very old place. It was by a place called Robin Hood. I can't remember what it was called now. Yeah, by Prestatyn. I used to go there. I just don't know what it is about the war. I just love it. So I just wanted to think about the war and the big, in those days it brought everyone together. And obviously, we came through it in the end. It took a lot of effort, obviously, and it's got bigger and bigger. We've survived it. But I think obviously kids today don't think about it, do they? Really? So I just wanted to mention it. Obviously, as I said, it's been 74 years since the war. And it was a good, from 7 years, was it? 7 years is a long time to be away from your families. As I said, children were evacuated. How would we cope these days if that was to happen again? And Butlins closed down. As I said, they had to send all the, the campers had to go home. Heidi Hi campers! I should mention that, shouldn't I? Did you used to watch Heidi Hi? The holiday camp show. I used to love that. Yeah, Sue Pollard. I look a bit like her, don't I? Yes, okay, I think I need to shut up now. I hope you like my little history lesson on Butlins. Maybe people don't really know that Skegness Butlins was used as a camp in the war for the sailors, As I said, HMS Royal Arthur. Yes, so thanks for watching me, Susie Q. I hope you enjoyed it, and stay tuned for my Butlins sort of little vlog, I suppose I would call it, kind of thing. And as I said, thanks for watching. Ciao for now, and stay tuned. And don't forget to try Butlins if you haven't. You can't go wrong with Butlins. I just love Butlins, And as I said, so much has been put into this, to bring a bit more enjoyment to England. So thank you. I'm proud to be British.